Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Oh, my wonderful friends, our guest today is yet one more visionary thinker and teacher who is new to Seek Reality, and he's someone I have invited to join us and to share his terrific book with us because I think he has some very important insights to share with Seek Reality listeners about things that you've asked me to talk about, but I don't have the depth, really, to share those things with you. He has important insights to share about, for example, how to work with your spirit guide. And many people want to know, as you know, I have a spirit guide named Thomas. And frankly, without his help, I could not do one blessed thing. I couldn't get through the week, frankly. And I can't even tell you how it works between us. In fact, our guest today could tell you a whole lot more about that, frankly, than I could. And but he has helped me immeasurably. Our spiritual work together has grown and grown, but in most cases, we don't work as closely with one another, I think, as our guest today works with the people that he works with who are not in bodies. And I'm anxious to talk about that with him. Our guest today is Happy Alley, and he is a whole nother story altogether. He has made a real study of the whole field of what he calls intuition, which is the great, massive area of internal guidance and help from discarnate beings and energies of all descriptions. Now he teaches people how to access their internal guidance, and he writes about it in what I think is an extremely helpful book. Happy Alley has a BA degree in psychology from UCLA. He is a prophetic dreamer, a certified master NLP practitioner, a certified master clinical hypnotherapist, and host of the Happy Insights podcast. Happy's spiritual journey began in 1995 when he dedicated his life to the exploration of metaphysical disciplines after a near-death experience inspired a dramatic awakening in him. Now, we've talked about what awakened things in me when I was very young. We can talk about that today, too, if you like. Happy now teaches, and he globally shares what he calls the subconscious manifestation methodology that he created. He lives in Los Angeles, and again, his book is called The Intuition Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom. Happy, welcome. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Roberta. I am very excited to be here today. And I am really excited to share maybe some things that are a little different than what other guests have shared on this very similar topics.
Well, we haven't had really much of anyone who can talk about communication with guides.
There's a really good book if you want to learn. It's called The Intuition Bible. No, I'm just kidding. I'm only teasing. I actually, to be really honest with you, I'm just going to be very frank. I don't have that kind of a relationship with my specific guide. I have been trying to get a name out of my guide, something. I understand how it all works. I understand that we have a guide that's with us from the beginning till the end, and then we have other guides that come in that help with each different period of our lives that requires unique expertise. But I really just wanted to write a book about the inner world that we have access to that goes beyond just one guide or two guides, because there is so much that we have access to. And I talk about it as the very first superficial level is your subconscious, which is storing information constantly. About 99.9996% of all the data that's coming in at us every moment of our lives is being deleted and distorted and kind of stored in our body and only 0.00006% is coming to our conscious mind. So there's
Yes.
a lot that's we're not aware of that we are computing internally. And if you can just tap into all that information and on the most superficial level, that's amazing because there is so much that has to be deleted. Otherwise, our brains would just implode because there's too much information coming at us at once. So for the skeptics or people who just want to learn how to tap into their inner world, I teach them to make friends with their subconscious mind because that's what translates the information. That's what takes information from the inner worlds or inner body or inner cells or whatever it is and translates it in a way that is symbolic for you. And the first step is to really learn how to communicate with that interpreter. The gateway to all that is your subconscious mind. And then it goes to the superconscious, which is connected to your higher self. Then it's your higher self that, intended for you to be born. And then you can go higher to spirit guides, to collectives that have the same intention as your soul does, to angels, archangels, deceased loved ones, even pets that are more than just pets. Their souls were there to support you on your journey. There's so many different layers all the way up to source, which nobody really truly has access to the pure version of source. But because we filter it so much, but it gets filtered down through us. But we do have access to it. So there's all these layers of information. And the reason I don't really emphasize so much on communicating with a single spirit guide, although it's really powerful to do that, because when you have an entity or something that you can feel comfortable communicate with, that entity will communicate with all the other layers, and it's just kind of bring it down and make it easier for you to process. So that's a great way. But I sometimes like to blur all the lines and just say, go within, ask the best source of information to come forth and give you the best thing that you need at that time. And it changes shape all the time. It's so different for every single person. Somebody will get a spirit guide. Somebody will get just these knowings. They're so different. So as you could tell, as you've read my book, I really try to keep it vague so that expectations don't slow people down, because your expectations could really mess you up.
Yeah. Well, my case was different in that my guide found me. He made the contact with me. So that was always how I sort of made this relationship. It was not one that I created. It was one that he created, always from the beginning.
I love that. I'm so jealous.
Well, I mean, he's not even talking now. In the beginning, he was all talk. Now he's sort of shutting up totally.
Well, I'll be happy to get some commentary from your spirit guides, because it's good to get validation or somebody say, oh, this guy's full of crap. So I hope I'm not.
My experience has been that in each case, it's very different. I have helped other people to communicate with their guides. And in some cases, it has worked pretty well. It's all in how they are different as people could be, very different. And their attitudes are so different.
Absolutely. And there's also your religious background or however you were raised. And there's all these limitations that we put on ourselves. For me, I'm a logical intuitive, which is kind of an oxymoron, because logic and intuition are the opposite. So I have to get proof from everything before I can even believe it myself, which is a huge hindrance. Logic is it is the antithesis of intuition.
Yes.
Because it needs everything to be quantified and make sense. And then intuition just wants to give you this bit of information that doesn't necessarily make sense to you right now, because it's not using data from your past or what you can see or what you've known in the past, what someone tells you to give you the information. It's something that comes from a complete different source that defies time and space and comes from somewhere completely unknown. That's why I have I think I was a good person to write this book for people who have a hard time tapping into their inner worlds because I am the skeptic mystic.
That's a mouthful.
I definitely am very skeptical with every time I've spontaneously had a channeling experience when I spirit or someone speaks through me and my mouth moves and information comes out, I always second guess it. And then a year later, after I listened to it, I realized, oh wow, that was really profound. Or
Right.
I'm a writer and I'm a channeled writer. So a lot of the stuff that I write comes through me and it doesn't have much of a
Yeah.
source. And I'll write it and I'll be like, well, it feels like I made that up, to my in my mind.
Isn't that interesting?
Then
That's what happens with channeling.
yeah, and then I see another channel that I respect literally quote what I just wrote. There's one channel, her name is Wendy Kennedy, and her verbiage of the stuff that she says and the new stuff that she talks about is almost identical to the stuff that I receive. And whenever I see her, she's like my confirmation to know, okay, all right, you're doing something right. Because my self-doubt level is higher than somebody in my position should have.
I guess there's no way to get around that because I know what you mean. If it's really flowing and if you don't know where it's coming from and it clearly looks right, you just got to go with it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people want proof, and proof comes later.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
something
yes.
that you have to trust what you get and then go with the flow and then see the proof and see the confirmations.
Yes.
So I think that it's really important to just kind of trust. But the first thing you have to do is let go of any belief that would imply that you're not an intuitive person or you're not special enough to tap into the inner world. And I use the word intuitive very broadly. It's a very broad definition when I say it. I believe that any information that comes from any source other than your logical mind that's computing data that you already had is intuition. It could be gut feelings, it could be
Yeah.
downloads, it could be channeling, it could be the patterns in your life, like seeing something keep coming. Because the universe is part of your body. You are a tiny little cell of the galaxy or in the universe, and it communicates through that. Sometimes when you're not open enough to receive from within, it'll show you your patterns. Oh, no, I'm dating the same person with a different face over and over and over. That's outer intuition is what I call it. It's when the universe is always talking and guiding you. And it's really important to pay attention because when you pay attention, then you make less wrong turns. But not to say that wrong turns are bad because we come here to gain muscle and transform and become something more. So sometimes those wrong turns are the things that we need to become something better.
Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Do you find that? Oh, this is the same person I was dating before.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I've been trying to break out of the age range of the people that I keep dating for so long, and I keep, one relationship ends and they've already changed. Their age has changed because we have, been together for 4 years, for example. Then the next person will be exactly the same age as where the last one started. And I know that it's like lit, and it's not it was fine when I was much younger, but now that I'm older, it's always a younger 22-year-old person. And it was fine when I was in my 30s. Now I'm 46. So it's like I cannot be dating someone in my 20s, but I need to, that's the universe saying, hey, there's something in you that you need to acknowledge, and then you need to work through it, and then patterns change.
That's vexatious. My goodness. I'm glad I'm past that. I got married quite young, so I know we don't have to do that anymore.
I wish that would have been so amazing for me. I'm jealous of you twice now on this show.
It does make life simpler. It really, really does.
Did you like my book?
Yes, I had first had to understand what was happening in it. These things that were happening, these relationships, your life was more complicated than I realized at first. And I think that was when I realized that, then I could sort of go with the flow of it.
Yeah, I had to start the book with my story of how I became what I became, which is a prophetic dreamer. I'm a prophetic dreamer. I dream things in advance, and I'm an intuitive, but I didn't really call myself a prophetic dreamer or an intuitive until life happened to me. And then I learned that I had these skills. That I never thought one day I would talk about prophetic dreaming, but I dreamt the birth of my son, and I'm gay, so having a child and you're single, it's not like a, easy thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's just like a miracle.
yes. And so I had a dream that they told me I was having this child. They showed me who I was having it with, which was my best friend who was a lesbian and her wife. And then they showed me that he was a boy. I got to hold him. And then I woke up and told them about it. And um, a year and a half not later, not only did we have a boy with using just the turkey baster method at home with just a couple of tries, I also adopted their goddaughter as my daughter. So all of a sudden, that dream led to me having a family we were the five family, the two
Yes, I
lesbians, me
remember
and the
that.
two boys, the two kids. And then 4 years later, I had a dream that two people died. And that dream was very real. And I remember telling my best friend that, two people are going to die. And she's like, you and your dreams. And then, of course, 2 months later, my son and my best friend died in a car accident that also um, put my daughter in the hospital. And that was one of those things where I thought, gosh, like, why would you have me have this child if you were going to take him away from me? Like, why did I have to go through all that? And that's when the communication really began. Because first of all, I was a verified prophetic dreamer. I'd had tons of prophetic dreams before, but people kept chalking it off to as a coincidence, or it's just something that just, oh, another coincidence. And then when you dream about the death, because I dreamt about the death 2 months before and the morning of, it was no denying because I told everyone about it. We had Facebook. I would update, dream update on Facebook. So then I became a validated prophetic dreamer. But the night that my son died, I went to sleep and he started showing up. And he was guiding me, showing me, telling me that my daughter was going to live because we didn't know if she was going to live, and telling me why he had to die. I spoke to my best friend and she told me why she had to die. And also, shortly thereafter, he started telling me that I was going to have another child, which I thought was absurd because I was in school studying psychology because of my son, because I wanted him to be proud of me and my daughter as well. But it was that when I was having the son, I was like, I need to do something. And I figured out what I needed to do, which was follow my calling. And then he was like, you're having another kid. I said, well, I can't afford it. It's not like something that I can just make a baby out of the blue. How do you just make a baby? And the resources, the information that I needed, the money, everything just came together like so quickly and so easily. And with the first try, and I ended up with twins. A year and a half later, my twins are 8 years old now. And my life is completely different than what it would have been had I not had the very first dream that led me to the life that I have now. So I really believe that as the partier in my 20s and I was kind of falling off my path, my soul, my guides or whoever it was intervened. That intervention, they're like, you are dead set on your ways. The only thing that's going to break you out of this pattern is something like a child and a death and all that stuff. And then I always wanted to have my own kids, but I never thought it was possible to raise my kids at home. And the universe provided. But I had to follow the intuition. I had to follow the guidance, and I had to know when to act. Because people talk about manifestation a lot, and I teach manifestation. Manifestation has three parts. One's the universe doing its job. The other one is your subconscious mind and your belief system allowing the universe to do its job. And the other one is knowing when to act. And that's where intuition comes in. Your inner world comes in. So if you don't have those three pieces working for you, then manifestation and creating the reality that you're meant to live is really difficult. You're kind of hoping for the best as opposed to just getting the inspiration, getting the universe to work for you, knowing that your beliefs are either hindering you or helping you, being aware of it, and then knowing when to act so you take action. So that's why I went from subconscious manifestation to intuition, because I felt like that was a really key component in living the life that we deserve.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was basically the catalyst for how I kind of got my superpowers. But I had my first intuitive experience where it was like really strange when I was 15 and I had just gotten my permit for my driver's permit for driving. And I stole my mom's car, and I was a big Madonna fan as a kid. And I decided I was going to find her house. I knew it was in the Hollywood Hills. I had seen a picture of it. And Hollywood Hills in Los Angeles is just this like just windy roads that have make no sense, and it's all stop signs. There's no lights, and it's a lot of houses. And I went and drove to find her house. And I would stop at a stop sign and I would check in with my inner world and say, hey, left, right, or forward. And whatever I felt like was the right answer, I would do it. And I remember without making a single U-turn, I ended up in front of her house. And it was like I was so excited that I found her house, but at the same time, something within me just opened up. I was like, wait a minute, someone was guiding me, because how else could I find it? I'd never find it if I didn't have that huge desire and I didn't trust my inner knowing. And
Yeah.
something as simple as being a stalker in that case.
Yes, you were.
Yes. I didn't go knock on her door. I just wanted to see what it looked like. I was, a fanatic teenager. And it was really cool. But I learned that we have access to more than what we know. We have access to an entire world. And the cool thing is your higher self or your spirit guides, or they have an agenda. And their agenda is to support you in your life's journey. And there are so much outside voices in our life. There's noise, there's social media, there's television, there's people telling you what's right for you. And they all have an agenda too, but it's not exclusively for your benefit. Everyone has their own agenda to achieve what they want to achieve. And those are the decisions, those are the sources of information that we're using to make decisions with. So wouldn't it be nice to tap into an inner world that has your best interest at heart, knows what you've been through, what you've wanted, what your strengths are, and also what your weaknesses are, the parts of you that need improvement, and can guide you to a journey that will allow all of that to unfold. And we don't always listen to it, obviously, because if you have a very wise, wealthy friend who wants to teach you about how to make money, you don't always listen to that. I know how many people have told me to save money and I still go, splurging. So you don't always listen to the voice, but it's good to have the voice as an option.
Wow, how beautiful. Now, you obviously you have this drive inside you to find and to feel and to do all of this. Surely you feel that.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that ever since I was very young, I just felt like I was here to help people. Like the very first book that I ever bought was on psychology. I was 10. And I don't even know if I read it, but I know that's what I gravitated towards. And my grandmother's superstitious ideas about mysticism, those were just food for me. But it was never because I'm very curious, but I've always wanted to help others. So I feel like that put me on that journey. And I think whatever my soul wanted me to do was very much to be of service. So anytime I stop being of service, I think a little voice comes and says, hey, time to get back on the on you the path. And I did makeup for a long time because I'm an artist, and my mom said you can't be a prophet. She was like, you can't. When I was 17, I had these downloads and I would get information, and I wanted to save the world, and everyone said you can't do that. No one's going to listen to a 17-year-old. This is in the 90s. And they said you need a real job, which I kind of wish I would have not listened to them and kind of gone my own way. But you live, you learn. And there's no mistakes, and there's always a path to your destiny, regardless of where you are. But I started doing makeup, but what made it really special for me was the one-on-one interaction I was having with people, and I was like their therapist. So that fueled my need for helping others. That kind of satisfied my need. Sorry, that satisfied my need for helping others, very close one-on-one. And they would come back even when they didn't want their makeup done, just because they needed a therapy session. And then eventually I spoke. I went to Iran, where I'm from, where I lived until I was 10. And I usually used to teach makeup when I would go there and make some money and make my money back for my trip. And I went there one year, and my mom asked me to do the makeup class. And I said, no, I'd rather teach law of attraction, manifestation, and things like that. And she's like, can you do it in Farsi? Because my Farsi is not, my Persian is not that great. It's good enough, but not that great. I said, I'm going to just put an audience in front of me. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. And then because something in me told me this is the path. And when your soul says you got to do something, you better do it. And because the universe kind of arranges everything, it makes it easy. That's when you know you're on your soul's path. When you get an inspiration, you act on it, and everything just works out. And it's not a delusion. So I said, I'll do it. They said, can you do it this Saturday? I said, sure. And they sent an email blast. And before you know it, I'm standing in front of a packed house. It only fit 70 people, but it was packed. People were standing in the back. And I gave my first lecture for 4 hours without a single note. I didn't take any.
Oh, good for you.
And I spoke and I spoke and I spoke so much that there was a demand for me to go back the next day. And I had another sold out day for 4 hours. And then I came home and I said, oh, I need to quit my job. So I quit my job, and I thought, I'm already good with the spiritual stuff. Let me learn the psychology of happiness and how to make people happy so I can incorporate them and create this balanced version of spirituality and science. Now I'm 80% spiritual, 20% science, but I'm still I like to incorporate both because you reach more people that way. And it has to make sense logically. And I found that combination really did give really great results to my clients because they understood the psychology and how their brain worked, and then they tapped into something more. And then when you combine the two, the results were amazing. They were tenfold.
Wow. Good for you, dear.
Yeah, and I remember I wrote a book in my 20s called The Charisma Within, about how to enhance your inner magnetism. And I was about to start writing and I sat on that forever. And it was 4 years ago when something told me you got to finish that book. So I finished that book and self-published it. Then I was writing another book called The Heartlands a couple of years ago, and I was almost done with it, but I just didn't love what was happening. I felt like it was already said before. And I did a little prayer that said, hey, can you help me write what needs to be heard right now, and what would be an easy step for humanity to take to get to the next level, like the first baby step. What does the world need to hear? And then in the morning, I woke up with 15 chapters of the Intuition Bible already very much outlined. And I just dropped my old project and I started writing it. And I said, if you're going to come through like this, then you have to find your own publisher. I'm not spending money on you. You got to do your own work. And the first publisher I sent it to is the New World Library. They did The Power of Now. They loved the book, and they didn't change it at all. They just loved it. They just took it, and it became 29 chapters in the end. And everything was so easy. Everything was just effortless because your soul is always supporting you if you listen. And whether it's closing doors for you or opening doors, it's always supporting you. And sometimes closing the door just says, hey, I'm supporting you by closing these doors because you're not supposed to go there.
Right.
And it will keep closing it until you find the door that's open. And so it's really important to, so everything that I live now is because of my inner world. And I found that a lot of my clients, when I would say, are you intuitive? They had this hard time saying that they were intuitive. And I would say, do you want to learn intuition or do you feel like you're intuitive? And they would say no. And then I would talk to them and realize they've had many intuitive experiences, but they were not willing to identify as an intuitive. So that's when I started teaching classes and really realizing that everybody has a specific superpower. Your inner, some people are clairvoyant, claircognizant, clairsentient, which is if your inner, we have our outer senses and we have the same in the inner world. So we can see inner vision, we have inner ear, inner feeling, all of that stuff. And I found that everybody had a different superpower. And they were looking at people that were clairvoyant and they were not clairvoyant. I'm not clairvoyant. And thinking that they were not intuitive or they couldn't see energy or anything outside of what the physical world was. And then I discovered everyone had their own unique thing. And because I was very open to which way or however it was going to show up for them, and I told them not to have any expectations, results just became more and more predictable, which is amazing.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah. And then sometimes I notice for some people who have a really hard time receiving information, you just ask a question and you let it go. And like you might be in the shower and then the answer will come. Because you're trying so hard to hear with your ears and that you can't hear because it's not coming in through your ears. It just has to like pop itself in however you're willing to receive it at that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, hopefully people that will read the book will get a lot out of it. I intended it to be a textbook of all things intuition with a lot of exercises. So it shows you how intuition works, what you have access to, what blocks it, what causes you to misinterpret the information, what helps you, like you should really know that just because you're receiving intuitive messages, you're not going to translate them purely. There's going to be things that are going to clog your judgment or make you think that you got one thing when you really got something else. And it's really important to be aware of all the little things that could affect your intuition, even after you've become a master intuitive or somebody who's really good at receiving information. So I wanted to go through every single aspect of intuition and every level that I could for people who didn't even do the exercises. And then I provide the exercises for people who want to really master it. And sometimes some of it works for some people and some of it doesn't because they work differently. I have twin boys, one's super logical, one's an empath. So I usually bring them up on stage and have them do this exercise. And one of them there's one exercise where you ask a yes or a no question and then you can feel it in your gut or your heart or somewhere around that area. And one of my sons can do it so well. And the other one cannot do it. He just doesn't feel anything because he's trying so hard with his mind. And the other one goes in his heart and he feels. But so with him, I have to do different exercises that are more for super logical people. So it's really important. It's fun for me to have these twins because they are my little guinea pigs. And I love them. No, it's fun because I do the exercises with them. They're so curious. They're born into my world of metaphysics and they just want to know. Like my son came up to me the other day and said, when we astral project, do we always come back? What if the little cord gets cut and we don't end up back here? That's one of the questions. Or another question he asked is, do actors have bad stuff happen to them if they're playing a villain because of law of attraction? These are questions that they came up with on their own. There's so many. There's countless questions.
Really sophisticated.
Yeah, and they were 7 and 6 when they're asked all these questions. They just turned 8. And
Oh my.
so when I say, they were like, we want to astral project. I was like, well, let's try. You have to be very patient and you have to want it really bad. And they want to have lucid dreams. But these
Oh
words
my.
are in our vocabulary, in our household. And it's amazing because these kids, but they're showing their talents in such a different way. One is got a lot of intense emotions and a lot of logical focus, which is the key for manifestation. If you can have strong emotions and have laser focus, you can manifest anything. And that one is not the empath that I was talking about. That's the other one. And he can manifest just about anything that he wants, even when I say no. He just manifests it through other sources because the universe is always abundant and will provide. And
Will
the other
provide.
one is an empath, but he does not have the manifestation power naturally that the other one does. So one is teaching the other about one, and the other one's teaching him the other about the other. And it's just amazing. Like when I see it, I'm just in awe. But it's really nice to see how it all works and try to have the best life possible.
Yeah, I would say that's quite amazing.
Yeah, my boys are definitely my teachers.
All right. Well, I have to say, Zaji, this has been quite an amazing episode. I'm kind of blown away by it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I felt
I
like I
think
was just blabbing.
your book is something that many people will resonate to, especially people who have seen and heard Seek Reality episodes, because we've talked about so much of this, but I think they can really sort of see how it happens in this episode. I mean, I don't, you know more about this than I do, and very few of my guests are really in that condition. Many people don't know as much as you know. So I'm excited to see what people here say about all of this when they see or hear these conversations. I think this is quite exciting.
Thank you. And
Really,
thank God it's on Audible because so many people now don't even listen. They don't read. So I'm always like, there's the Audible version. If you want to just listen to it in your car, you can put it on like a higher speed and just get through it really fast.
yeah,
But it's a lot of good information. I hope that if someone decides to buy it, it's doing well. So I'm hoping that it will continue to do well. And it's gotten really great reviews.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that it's different than other intuition books. And I didn't just add something that was
No,
superfluous.
no, it's really quite wonderful. I can recommend it without reservation.
Thank you.
All right, what do you want people to take away from our conversation today?
I think the most powerful thing that people can take away from this conversation is that we're not alone. You were not just thrown into this earth with no support. There is inner support that is always there and willing to guide you, and it knows what's best for you. And don't feel abandoned, even if you feel alone. Just tune into the frequency that is them, is your inner world. And once you tune into that frequency, you can receive guidance and you can crawl out of any hole and succeed and thrive because the universe wants you to survive and wants you to thrive. It's not just you.
Wants you to survive and wants you to thrive. Perfectly said. That's quite wonderful. Oh, my dear ones. Once again, we have come to the end of our time together, and this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm very glad you could be with us today, because I think it's been kind of boggling, to tell you the truth. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you get all the implications of that fact, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be our wonderful friend Karen Anderson, who will be with us for the 8th time. Karen is a popular pet psychic who now maintains a sanctuary for pets that would otherwise not have a home. Listeners here always enjoyed hearing her stories, so I think you're going to enjoy this. Please be sure to join us next week. And this week, we've been talking with Happy Alley, who is the author of the Intuition Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom. For people trying to better understand how communication with discarnate beings, spirit guides, and other helpers works, I think that Happy's book must be very helpful. I know it was wonderfully interesting for me, and I read a good part of it before we went on air. He calls himself a prophetic dreamer, a certified master NLP practitioner, a certified master clinical hypnotherapist, and he's the host of the Happy Insights podcast. Happy's spiritual journey began in 1995 when he dedicated his life to the exploration of metaphysical disciplines after a near-death experience inspired a subconscious manifestation methodology that he created. He lives in Los Angeles, and you can find him online at happyinsights.net. Now, as you know, our great friend Craig Hogan is the president and guru of Seek Reality Online, which is your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. Just go to seekreality.com and start to learn for yourself that your own reality really is eternal. Like it or not, if you're alive now, you always will be alive. Learn the ultimate truth from our dear, wonderful friend Craig, who is your worldwide ultimate expert on all things afterlife. And of course, Teachings by Jesus is your best resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher of them all, Master Jesus. Now it really is Jesus' turn. And there's no more time to talk about my books or anything else. So meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy. Please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being. And you, most of all, in this coming entire universe, you are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.